Honorable members of Parliament, Madam Speaker.
Land of wealth and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for our rights. We want freedom's fight, oh, one, strong and free. Africa is our own motherland, fashioned with and blessed by God's to them. Let us all our people join as one, brothers under the sun, oh, one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry, dignity and peace is our sky, like a noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free. Praise be to God, praise be, bless our great Zambia, Zambia, remain we stand under the flag of our land. Zambia, praise to thee, oh, one, strong and free.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being with us on Parliament Television. bells are ringing, which signifies that a quorum has not yet been constituted. It is a requirement that 1/3 of members of Parliament need to be present for business to be transacted on the floor of the House. So once a quorum is constituted, we do expect business of the House to resume. And just now we ran you through today's order paper, and that's the business that we expect the House to consider this afternoon. Of course, we do expect some announcements. We also expect the House to consider some urgent matters without notice, if there will be any. And we do expect the House to consider 2 ministerial statements.
And the first one is expected to be presented by the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. This is on the sustainable utilization of wetlands, and the other one will be presented by the Minister of Justice. This is on the revised edition of the laws of Zambia. So those are the 2 ministerial statements that we expect to be presented on the floor of the House today.
We also expect the House to consider 1 question for oral answer under Standing Order 80. This question is expected to be asked by Ms. Melesiana Piri, Milanzi Member of Parliament, and the question will be directed to the Minister of Education. She wants to know in A, whether the government has any plans to upgrade the following.
Order, honorable members. I think we should all remind ourselves of what the requirements of our standing orders are in terms of decorum and etiquette. For several times of recent past, the presiding officer has come to the House, to a House that has no quorum. That is in breach of our standing orders, and in particular, I will politely remind honorable members of the provisions of Standing Order 214 2A. Shall be in the House or in a meeting room a few minutes before the appointed time for commencement of sitting of the House and after health break. It's becoming a habit now to come here and sit and wait for honorable members to walk in at leisure. This is not acceptable, and if we want to enforce these rules, it's very easy. Once a member comes late, we close the doors. Then you can miss the sitting. As we all know, honorable members, parliamentary business takes precedence over everything else. So we need to be sure that we are on time. So for honorable members that are not here, both on my right and on my left, I think this is unacceptable. And if I become strict and close the doors, please don't. I'm reminding, a gentle reminder, a polite reminder to draw your attention to our own standing orders. We have business on the order paper that we need to transact within the time that is allocated. And honorable members would desire to debate, to be given enough time to debate. If we come late, that means the time for debate will also be curtailed. I'm actually disappointed, to say the least, honorable members. If you want me to do things for you like mangoes and what have you, you also have to do your part. So up to now, we don't have a quorum, do we? We still have 8 more members. I think a circular should be drafted. The clerks at the table, we need a circular to remind members on this. Thank you very much. That's why I'm saying I'm speaking to the already converted. The ones who are always late, they are not in the House. Honorable ministers, please let's stay in so that we don't deplete the quorum further. We need to start. Since we have 2 in 1, we have formed a quorum. Order, honorable members, I have 3 announcements to make now that we have a quorum. The first, honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Kaunda Square Secondary School in Lusaka District. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. I thank you. You may take your seats. Honorable members, the second one is that I wish to also recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Pestalozzi Education Center in Lusaka District. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. I thank you. You may take your seats. The last honorable announcement is that, honorable members, I wish to inform the House that the Honorable Minister of Mines and Minerals Development was supposed to present a ministerial statement on the statistics of financial support to small-scale miners issued with mining licenses this week. However, Due to unforeseen circumstances, the statement will instead be presented next week. I thank you. Urgent matters without notice. Honorable Member from Msanzala.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for giving the good people of Msanzala this opportunity to ask the Minister of this matter of urgent public importance is directed to Minister of Agriculture. This morning, Madam Speaker, we woke up with a very sad development in Petauke and Msanzala, where our people, the workers from FRA, they are conniving with buyers of our maize, which is being delivered to our depot at a very expensive cost. But these FRA people and buyers, briefcase buyers, are buying this maize, which our people are supposed to buy and benefit from. What is the government going to do so that this tendency is brought to a stop? Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member from Msanzala. For me, that sounds like a theft, a police case. Can these people be reported to the police and be brought to book? Because what they are doing is actually not only making people go hungry, but also tarnishing the image of the government. Please, Honorable Minister of Agriculture, do something. There is no way that people can steal maize while we are looking. And then people are going hungry, and people are complaining there is hunger. When maize is going in the wrong hands, the police should come in and do their work. But, Honorable Member, that is not admitted because it's not an urgent matter. It doesn't qualify, but it's important that the police should do their work and arrest these people. It's theft. Theft is a criminal offense under the Penal Code. So that was the only urgent matter without notice that was raised or indicated. I have permitted the Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources to present a ministerial statement. The Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
Madam Speaker, I wish to take this opportunity to thank you for allowing me to make this ministerial statement on the development of guidelines for the sustainable utilization of wetlands in Zambia. In our country, wetlands account for approximately 19% of the country's total area, and they comprise natural lakes, man-made lakes, open river channels, floodplains, swamps, marshes, and dambos. Madam Speaker, a total of 8 wetlands have so far been designated as wetlands of international importance in Zambia. These are the Kafue Flats, Bangwawulu Swamps, Barozi Floodplains, Luangwa Floodplains, Busanga Swamps, Lukanga Swamps, Lake Mweru, Wantipa, and Lake Tanganyika. These important ecosystems provide benefits and ecosystem services such as freshwater supply, food and building materials, flood control, and groundwater recharge and nutrient recycling. Madam Speaker, furthermore, millions of Zambians directly depend on wetlands for agriculture, fisheries, livestock rearing, and much more through wetlands-dependent industries like tourism, commercial agriculture, and water transportation. For example, Madam Speaker, the Kafue floods provide approximately 50% of the nation's hydroelectricity. 44% of water supply to Lusaka's domestic and industrial water users also use Kafue floods. Nearly 90% of sugarcane for domestic and export markets, supporting an estimated 20% of the national cattle herd and production of maize. Madam Speaker, regardless of the importance of wetlands ecosystems to Zambia's socio-economic development, the country has not been spared from the threats and challenges faced by wetlands. Zambia's wetlands face degradation, which is caused by pollution, unsustainable land use practices, invasive alien species, climate change, encroachment, fires, fishing, poaching, as well as an increase in unplanned human settlements. The issue, Madam Speaker, of climate change cannot be overemphasized, since Zambia recently witnessed a countrywide prolonged drought, of which the effects can still be felt across the country today. Madam Speaker, the impact of the drought already mentioned, including other various threats to wetlands resources, cannot be overlooked, since these are causing a high demand for land in wetlands resources for investments such as agriculture. This is due to the fact that in the midst of droughts, wetlands remain potential ecosystems for investments. Madam Speaker, in this regard, the government of the Republic of Zambia, through my ministry, has developed guidelines. These are guidelines to provide for the sustainable utilization of wetlands in the country, and also to provide for monitoring and quality assurance procedures. In order to ensure that these guidelines meet the desires of all stakeholders, they were subjected to consultations with local communities, subcommittees that are working on issues of wetlands, including the National Technical Committee on Biodiversity and the National Steering Committee on Biodiversity. Madam Speaker, the opportunity that these guidelines will offer can also not be underestimated. The guidelines will support the current national wetlands policy by sufficiently providing for an effective coordination mechanism, since there is no specific law designed for wetlands conservation and protection currently in the country. What we have are various pieces of policies and laws catering only to specific sectors that have a connection with wetlands. Therefore, in the mid to long term, the country will benefit from having well-managed wetlands resources that will support sustainable development and improve livelihoods. Madam Speaker, this will further contribute to the 8th National Development Plan of the Government of the Republic of Zambia, which, under the leadership of His Excellency, the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, states that Zambia's vision of attaining a prosperous medium income status by 2030 emphasizes development that is anchored on sustainable environment, ecosystems, and natural resource management principles. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, this year and beyond, the government, through my ministry, will continue to seek partnerships with line ministries, non-government organizations, and civil society organizations to fully actualize the guidelines as quickly as possible so that we can save our wetlands. Madam Speaker, I thank you and I submit.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable members are now free to ask questions on points of clarification on the ministerial statement presented by the Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. The Honorable Member for Lubanseshe.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker and Honorable Minister. Thank you for that elaborate update to the nation. My question to you is specifically for Bangweuru swamps. Madam Speaker, the ministers put it rightly in terms of benefits that is providing to the Zambian people. I would like to find out if at all the Zambian government has come up with specific program to try and create jobs in those areas, looking at this wetland is there in Luapula province and part of northern province, which can create massive jobs for the Zambian people. I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
Which is mine. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question. Indeed, Madam Speaker, there are programs that are being worked out to ensure that people that are living in wetlands do not abuse the wetlands. And it's because, as you know, Madam Speaker, wetlands can be used for crops growing at a time when there's a drought. As you took note, even just recently, during the past drought, under the Ministry of Agriculture and under the Ministry of Community Development, they had programs specifically to ensure that those communities living around wetlands were given inputs for crop growing. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Solwezi East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And Minister, thank you for your statement. You have highlighted the main wetlands and so on. I want to find out, we have many others, though small, but very critical, especially when it comes to the water recharge, streams. Yeah. I take an example of our Luenge, we call it Luenge, where the Kafue River begins from in Mshindamu. And as it flows into the Copper Belt, we have quite a lot of smaller, but these very, very important wetlands, which are the water recharge areas. What is the plan that you have in terms of the management of these smaller wetlands? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question. Madam Speaker, indeed, as I indicated in the statement, that Zambia, about 19% of the land area is wetlands. And therefore, when you imagine 20% is quite something. But over the years, like I stated in the statement, we have a situation where there's degradation of these wetlands. And one of the things that we have done, basically, one is to begin sensitizing people on what wetlands are. Secondly, how they can be protected. Thirdly, how they can be utilized. Now, I did mention that there are specific wetlands that have been declared of international recognition. That does not mean those are the only ones. The truth is, as the MP has articulated in his question, that we do have a number of wetlands in many areas of Zambia, many districts and constituencies of Zambia, wherein people don't even understand that this is a wetland And a wetland, for example, is not supposed to be used for construction of a house. But we have a situation where people are building houses, residential houses, in Dambo areas, in swampy areas, in what we are calling wetlands, when those are not areas that are supposed to be used for that. What we have discovered, obviously, as the responsible ministry on this policy of wetlands, is that many of our residents, of our citizens, do not really understand what is a wetland and how that wetland must be utilized. And therefore, this is why a lot of work has started over the years, and one of those is on issues of guidelines. And so in the immediate time, we have developed these wetland guidelines, and we are hoping that we can widely sensitize our communities by, first of all, coming to the parliamentarians, so that even our parliamentarians can understand and appreciate and help the government when they get into their constituency in terms of just knowledge sharing on protection of these wetlands. Also, on identification, because the truth of the matter is that we have more big wetlands in this country, which we can, even if they're not internationally being recognized, even at national level, we should be able to recognize, protect them, and use them accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member from Babala.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Minister, for this information. Honorable Minister, you have talked about the degradation of these wetlands and also the coming up of guidelines from your ministry to mitigate this situation, guidelines which we hope will definitely protect these very essential areas that help to regenerate our environment. Now, the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services is giving inputs to our farmers to produce winter maize and other related crops in the same wetlands. How is your ministry liaising with the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services? Because I see that you are coming with guidelines to protect them, and on the other side we are supporting agricultural activities in the same wetlands. So how is the cross-line coordination and having a common line of policy for us to get the best for Mother Zambia? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question. Madam Speaker, firstly is to acknowledge that indeed the subject of natural resources, which includes wetlands, is a sector that is found in many other sectors. It's rather a topic or an issue found in various ministries, such as tourism, water, environment, fisheries, agriculture, and so on. And of course, what our ministry is doing in order to coordinate all natural resources programs and activities in a coordinated manner, we the holder of the policy on natural resources. And so what we have done is we have promoted coordination and cooperation with all this sector ministry. And we have a national technical committee on biodiversity, which takes into account all the various stakeholders. And therefore, it is from there that this committee, even when it came to issues of the guidelines, these guidelines were not only done by Ministry of Lands, but done in consultation with all the major stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Usakili.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to ask the question. Madam Speaker, some wetlands are very close to streams, rivers, and lakes. For example, the Bangweulu wetland and many other more that are along the Kafue. And the quality of water is affected by, the quality of water in these wetlands is affected by those rivers where they are closer to. For example, the Kafue River, very recently there was that acid pollution. And Minister here is telling us that they are looking at sustainable utilization of these wetlands, and obviously those wetlands that are along the Kafue rivers, there won't be sustainable utilization because they are polluted. So I want to find out from the minister, because I saw when a group of ministers visited Chambesh, that mine which polluted the river, they were all celebrating when the owner of the mine apologized and told them that they will be checking regularly the pollution. What sustainable or serious interventions are you going to put to ensure that in future such an occurrence does not happen, which has made the people of Copper Belt, people of Usakile, people of Ungabwe, all the fish is dead there. They are all affected all the way. What sustainable measures are you going to put? I bring this question, Madam Speaker, because I've seen all these new people who have come in mining who are discharging the slurry, which are the best to discharge that. They don't have a filter plant. In Mopani, when you go to Mopani, there's a filter plant and there's Mindoro Dam. So what they do, when they discharge that slurry in the dam, they filter that water, and every day 3 times the water that is discharged in the dam is purified, and they make sure that it is able to support life. Every day 3 times they pick samples to ensure that there are no acidic contents. So such water like Mindoro Dam water, even if when it goes into the river, it is water, good water that can even support life. So Minister, what interventions are you going to put? Because most of the rivers and the streams that affect some of the wetlands, they are near mining activities. So what serious interventions are you considering? Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And thank you, Honorable, for an important follow-up question. Except, Madam Speaker, the question was in 2 parts. I think the first time the Honorable was asking the question, he was talking about sustainable use of wetlands, and that rivers that are next to wetlands are causing those rivers, the quality of that water to be polluted or to be compromised in terms of quality. Then the second part of the question, he then went to talk about pollution of rivers or wetlands as a result of mining activities being near the rivers. So I maybe want to begin to think that he was talking about pollution of water, sources of water and rivers, including wetlands, by mining activities. And all I can say, because now I'm being delved into mining, all I can say is that we have a national technical group of the professionals that sit to look at all these issues from the various sectors that are dealing with issues of water sources, local government, and all these important ministries, maybe even including mining. And all I can say concerning the specific question is that the minister responsible came on the floor and gave this House immediate steps that the government is taking to ensure that, first of all, the water is brought back to be clean and safe for the people. But secondly, also to avoid future pollution by mines. And let me also state that these guidelines that have been produced will actually help in some of these problems that we are facing today. And we hope that in the long run, we must come up with legislation, because these are just guidelines, so that we can strengthen our rules and also strengthen the protection of our natural resources. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Masaiti.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, I understand that 40% of the world species live in these wetlands. Now, how many of the wetlands that we are blessed with or endowed with as a country that are internationally important according to the Ramsar Convention? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you, may I? Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Masaiti, kindly repeat your question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I started by saying 40% of the world's species live in these wetlands. You mentioned, you listed quite a number of wetlands that we have or that we're endowed with as a country, Zambia. Now, how many of these wetlands that Zambia is blessed with that are internationally important and recognized by the Ramsar Convention? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't off the cuff know how many of these species that Zambia is endowed with in the various wetlands of our country have been recognized internationally. Thank you. But all I can state is that we are party to the Convention on the biosystems of the international world. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Kamfinsa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is a very important topic, how our wetlands should be managed. And I wish to ask the Minister responsible, Honorable Minister, these wetlands happen to occur in specific districts of Zambia. So we have the local authority in those districts, and you have your officers from Ministry of Lands, and I think you have other very key government officials that are supposed to help you manage these wetlands. Have you put in place, Honorable Minister, a wetlands management team or committee at that local level where these wetlands are occurring? Because I don't think they are all over the place. They are specifically located in specific places within Zambia. So do we have a certain level of coordination at a local level that ensures that these are managed? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for an important question as a follow-up question. Yes, Madam Speaker, we do have a wetland subcommittee, and these subcommittees, of course, we've started at the national level, at the provincial level, and in some specific districts they're there, because remember, Madam Speaker, that we are now pursuing a policy of decentralization, and some of the functions that are at the national level have already started going to the district level. And since district councils are agents of Ministry of Lands in the management of land, it is expected that the districts will definitely or should definitely have such subcommittees to protect these important natural resources known as wetlands. And like I said earlier, we need to do more campaigns or information sharing with the public so that Zambians generally begin to understand, to appreciate what God has given them in form of natural resources, and also to understand how these natural resources can be protected. Suffice to say, it is for that reason why we have come up with these guidelines. In those guidelines, or part of what is contained in those guidelines, is also to educate, to guide the communities, of course through their local authorities, how best the wetlands can be utilized for what and how they can protect them against pollution. And also there will be aspects of monitoring within those guidelines. And it is the monitoring aspect that also will become crucial if we are to protect our wetlands. And so that we do not have people going to build in wetlands. Just here in Lusaka, Madam Speaker, you saw Her Honor the Vice President visiting these floods. You saw His Excellency the President visiting the floods and the affected families. It has been a very sad moment for the people, especially here in Lusaka, in Chongo, and various districts across the country, where they built in dambos, in marshlands. And you can see that once the rains were heavy, homes had a lot, they became rivers. And it is because somehow, somewhere, we missed it. We did not advise these people, or maybe they were advised, or maybe they didn't understand. But if they had known on their own, they would have been empowered. They would have not made the mistake of building big, beautiful homes in dambos, in marshland, in wetlands. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chadiza.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, we take note that you have come up with guidelines to protect these wetlands, and we appreciate. However, people of Chadiza would want to find out if you have any intentions to restore some of these critical wetlands that have been damaged by illegal human activities. Madam Speaker, thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for your question. Yes, Madam Speaker, it is true to say that a number of our wetlands have suffered degradation. They've suffered abuse by the humans themselves, ourselves as human beings. And like I said, part of the problem has been ignorance of the importance of wetlands. And that's why we have to do a lot of work as citizens, as leaders, to educate our people on the importance of wetlands. Suffice to say, Madam Speaker, that we as a nation over some years have gotten to a level where there's some level of lawlessness in the country. And it is for the reason why His Excellency, from day one, he declared that his government will not allow cadreism. And what he meant by cadreism was simply that we do not want people who use a political party or use their position to assume power which they do not have. They become the law unto themselves and think that the police or those tasked with the work to enforce laws cannot touch them. They become untouchables. It was simply to help this country get back to the rule of law. Because let us agree as citizens of this country and leaders of this country that we have a problem. The problem didn't start yesterday. History. But let's forget about the history. Let's start talking about now. What can we do together as citizens, as leaders, to ensure that we build a nation based on the rule of law? And regardless of where you come from, which political party you're affiliated. Because at the end of the day, even when you look, Madam Speaker, at just SADC region, Zambia, we are behind. Even basic hygiene, basic things, we are rejecting them. So let's help each other. We'll be helping ourselves. Because today we are here, tomorrow we'll not be here. What kind of Zambia do we want to have? And let's all enforce the law. It doesn't matter whether you're an investor, whether a Zambian investor or a local investor or an international investor, let the law play its course. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Luena.
Opportunity. Honorable Minister, the Barose floodplains, which is one of the wetlands you mentioned in your statement, stretches all the way from Ikelengi, Chavuma, all the way up to Sesheke. And it has a lot of inhabitants. And when people hear about protecting wetlands, what comes to their minds is there is a list of disallowed activities. In fact, my own village, Namweti, is located in the wetland. So the question to you, Honorable Minister, is, given that there is a possibility of people misunderstanding what protecting these important national areas versus them getting their survival from living in these wetlands, is your ministry planning to engage further, including key stakeholders such as members of parliament, councillors, council chairpersons, so that questions can be answered at the local level? Any plans for such further engagements? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for a very important question. Start by saying that educating the masses, getting them to be aware about this subject we are discussing, very important subject today, is a matter of life and death. In the last season, Zambia experienced the worst drought. And I'll tell you that many of us may not even understand why, how. It is simply because we did not hear to the early voices when people talked about climate change which is coming. Please stop cutting trees carelessly. Please don't do this carelessly. You know, and they answered, Zadia Chan, what are we going to eat? The end result of Zadia Chan, what are we going to eat, is you have a drought. So what do? Zambians today are lucky that they have a president like HH who has kept them alive. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, this drought was so dangerous and bad, we're going to die, many of us. So what am I saying? I like the question, not just the question, the information that you are educating us. We need to educate each other. The truth of the matter, Madam Speaker, I'll speak for myself. I have come to appreciate and understand the importance of wetland because somebody has taught me now. My directors of natural resources have taught me. And when I went back to my constituency, I discovered that Chongwe has a number of wetlands. On some of them, we've even built schools. You see? Because sometimes we do things out of ignorance. So we need to share this information. We need to alert everybody. And we do need to get the parliamentarians educated on this matter so that when we go back to our constituencies, we can pass on that information. You know, I think it's important. So thank you, Honorable, for those suggestions. And my officers from the Ministry of Lands are here. Some of them are listening to here. So we'll come up with programs for the Parliament, and I hope Madam Speaker will allow us so that this important information must be shared. Zambia is a lucky country, Madam Speaker, but we don't know how lucky we are. We don't know the peacefulness of this country. We don't know the goodness of our land and all what we have been given as our natural resources. Let us protect it. Let us work together. Let's help our country, because that's all we have. At the end of the day, when we are all done with our life story, we go back into our homes to settle down. We want to find the wetlands and use them, not just for Komboka fashions, but also for our rice plantations, also for maintaining our species, And there's just so much that we can gain.
Quality.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Chifubu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Chifubu an opportunity to ask the Minister a question. Honorable Minister, we have seen the importance of these wetlands across the country. Policies have been put up, regulations are in place, but we have continued to see people abrogating these regulations with impunity and depleting and also contributing to the degradation of our wetlands. Honorable Minister, even the heavily advertised products such as Coca-Cola worldwide, it keeps on receiving an advert every year, every day, every month. So my question to you is, what are you doing considering the importance of the wetland? Do you have a program to sensitize the people almost on different intervals on the importance of the wetland, considering the challenges of a drought we had following the effects from these wetlands? Do you have a national program for protect the wetlands? Do you have that so that most of the people can know? Because as we are talking now, there are some people who are planning to buy fishing nets to go in the wetlands. There are people who are retiring who wants to go and settle in the wetland. But if there is a program, probably on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, sensitizing them on the importance of protecting these wetlands, I'm sure we are going to preserve our wetland. Do we have this national program in your ministry? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for the follow-up question, very important questions. Madam Speaker, in the statement, I did allude to the point that we have no specific law. So, you are talking without biting. But immediately, that's why we sat with all the relevant stakeholders, ministries that have a role to play in this subject matter, and we came up with these guidelines. These guidelines were supported by our cooperating partners, and we did launch these guidelines on a day which was a wetland day, an national day. And the idea was that we will use that opportunity to sensitize the people. Obviously, you know, Madam Speaker, these programs will just appear on TV of 3 seconds and it finishes. Obviously, not so many people could have heard, could have seen, others read in the paper, not everybody buys newspapers, others maybe. So, and you know, in this country, Madam Speaker, we don't pay attention to real issues. We pay attention to politics. So we miss the real issues that this country and our people should be spending time on. And so, Madam Speaker, that's why I want to thank you and the leader of the House for allowing me to give this ministerial statement. It was all in an effort to say, where do we begin from? The most important people are these people sitting here in terms of dissemination of information throughout the 10 provinces, throughout the 16 districts, throughout the 156 constituency, throughout the thousands of wards, throughout the thousand millions of districts. And so we are hopeful that if we can begin from here, going by even the suggestion from my brother there, the Member of Parliament for Luena, we have a session with our technocrats so that they can give us more information as politicians so that we can go in our constituencies, we can start from there. We now have decentralization. There was a suggestion, let's decentralize the district councils and into the communities so that on our own as citizens we can begin to appreciate the importance of conserving and protecting our wetlands. But mid-term and immediately we have these with guidelines. And as I indicated, the guidelines will help us to ensure that we protect pollution, which somebody talked about. You know, we can detect it, we can stop it, because then we have guidelines. And you'll be able to know that the guideline says you cannot do this. This farm, this man, this woman, this company is doing this. But you can only stop somebody if you are equipped with that knowledge and information. They say knowledge is power. So yes, we still have a long way to go. We have a lot of work, I want to admit, and I can only seek your support as colleagues here to help in your own small way. But on our part, long term, we'll look at ensuring that we can bite those that do not protect our natural resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I think the subject is of utmost importance, but from the indications I saw that there wasn't much interest. So the suggestion that you have made about training the members of parliament, I think is very important, and we have a parliamentary training institute. All we need is just the resource persons, and the honorable members will be able to attend. So please come with that sensitization and training. The honorable members also to the issues that relate to wetlands. So thank you very much for that. Honorable members have also permitted the Honorable Minister of Justice to present a ministerial statement. The Honorable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you. I thank you for giving me this opportunity to deliver a statement and inform the House on the laws of Zambia Revised Edition, Act Number 9 of 1968. The Act mandates that the Ministry of Justice, through the Commissioner Revision of Laws, under the direction of the Learned Counsel, Attorney General, to prepare the revised edition of the laws of Zambia and arrange for the printing and publication of these revised laws. Further, Section 9 of the Laws of Zambia, Revised Edition, Act of 1968, mandates my office to specify the cut-off date for the revision through a statutory instrument. Madam Speaker, pursuant to these powers, on the 21st of April 2020, Laws of Zambia Revised Edition, at specified date, notice statutory instrument number 34 of 2020, and set on 31st December 2019 as a cut-off date for the purpose of the revision. Following the issuance of the statutory instrument, the Commissioner Revision of Laws proceeded to prepare the revised edition of the Laws of Zambia for the period of 1997 to 2019. That was about 22 years. Madam Speaker, and indeed to the House, I wish to inform the House that our laws were last revised about 2 decades ago. As a result, our current revised edition of Laws of Zambia in many cases contain laws that are no longer applicable, as these laws have since been repealed or amended, thereby rendering the use of our current revised edition redundant. Madam Speaker, and indeed to the entire House, you may wish to know that the practice in most Commonwealth countries is to revise the laws every 5 years. Therefore, this revision of the laws of Zambia is a significant milestone in our nation's history. And as the New Dawn government, under the able leadership of the President of the Republic of Zambia, President Hakainde Hichilema, Commander-in-Chief, this is a great success, and we are proud that we are able to set aside financial resources for the revision exercise so many years, which wasn't a good precedent. Madam Speaker, and indeed to my fellow colleagues in the House, the revision of the laws will enable courts, law practitioners, students of law, enforcement officers to operate with greater ease and efficiency, and indeed to the entire citizenry of our country. As all amendments and statutory instruments affecting a particular law have been consolidated into one act. Additionally, this comprehensive revision ensures that our laws are up to date, consistent, aligned with the style. Madam Speaker, and indeed to the House, this achievement demonstrates our commitment to strengthening the rule of law, promoting justice, and supporting the development of our great nation, the Republic of Zambia. Section 13 and subsection 1 of the Laws of Zambia, Revised Edition Act 1968, mandates the Minister of Justice to lay before the National Assembly a complete copy of the revised edition of the Laws of Zambia. Further empower the National Assembly to pass a resolution authorizing the President of the Republic to bring the revised edition of the Laws of Zambia into enforcement by statutory commencement order. Madam Speaker, pursuant to Section 13 and subsection 1 of the Laws of Zambia, Revised Edition Act 1968, I hereby lay before this House the revised edition of the Laws of Zambia for the period of 1997 to 2019. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I was just wondering, where is the document? Or are they being laid on the table via soft copy? Because the Honorable Minister indicated that she's laying on the table the revised, so I did not see.
Indeed, Madam Speaker, this was discussed by your office. We did bring all the copies, but we were advised that on the table we do lay it via the fact that the members were also communicated to through soft copy. I submit.
Thank you very much. Honorable members are now free to ask questions on points of clarification on the ministerial statement presented by the Honorable Minister of Justice, the Honorable Member for Chifubu. If it was cost of living, the
Thank
whole
you,
thing would
Madam
have been
Speaker. Honorable Minister, you have indicated in your ministerial statement that we last revised our laws in this country in the last 2 decades. And indeed, it is a long time. There are a lot of changes that have happened in our country. We need to come up with updated laws that will live to the expectation. My question to you is, this is a very welcome idea across the country, and when is your ministry starting this process of revising the laws?
I thought, anyway, the Honorable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and indeed to my fellow colleague. I don't know what was happening, Honorable colleague. What I have laid on the table is actually the revised edition from 1997 to 2019. And I've also gone to say that the best practice actually is to have them every 5 years. So our hope as a ministry is that we can actually begin to work on the 2019 to 2024 edition, because we are already in the 5 years. I submit.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Shiwangando.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, indeed, the Honourable Minister should have been thorough so that even the Honourable members are getting the information they know, because laws have been revised. You are talking about an addition so that members know what it is that we are dealing with. And, Madam Speaker, this was basically just a procedural speech. My question would be, why hasn't the Minister followed through the procedures that are required to be followed when you are laying the addition that is yet to be approved by this Parliament, other than explaining what we didn't pick? Because here we deal with what is presented in accordance to the procedures prescribed. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
I believe the Honorable Minister, I don't know whether, maybe the Honorable Minister can respond first before I guide.
Actually, thank you, Madam Speaker, and please do feel free to jump in. What we are doing is part of the procedure, after which Parliament will be asked to say, do we agree to this revised edition, of which then, after we have all voted yes, which we are likely to do, and then this will go to the President, of which a commencement order will also be issued. I submit, and Madam Speaker, you can add.
Thank you very much. So, honorable members, the documents have been laid. I think because of the volume, they couldn't be brought here. So there's a soft copy that has been distributed to the honorable members. By the mere fact of distribution, that means the documents have been laid before the table and they've been distributed. The other procedures will follow. So that's why the documents are not here in person. The soft copy, we are going digital, so we have to get used to these soft copies. The owner, oh, there's no more. So it's procedural, as we said. So let's make progress. Questions for oral answer, understanding order 80. The honorable member for Milanzi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The people of Milanzi are asking question 246.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ms. Piri of Milanzi constituency asks the Minister of Education, A, whether government has any plans to upgrade the following community schools in Milanzi Parliamentary constituency to government schools. 1, Muntila Nsembe, and 2, Mulemeka. B, if so, when the plans will be implemented, and C, if there are no such plans, why? Madam Speaker, I wish to inform the House that A, the government has already upgraded Muntila Nsembe and Mlemeka community schools in Milanzi Parliamentary constituency to government schools. This transition from community schools to GRS primary schools is in accordance with Section 35 of the Education Act number 23 of 2011, as published in Zambia Government Gazette number 1055, dated 27 September 2024. B and C, in light of the response in Part A, Parts B and C are not applicable, as the government has already taken the necessary step. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Milanzi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, I do recognize the fact that the community schools have been upgraded. However, my interest is on Muntila Nsembe School that is running without a qualified, or should I say qualified teachers. There are no learning materials and the school infrastructure, in short. Since the schools have been upgraded, Honorable Minister, what are you doing to ensure that
there is provision of learning materials as well as qualified teachers, because these children, there are about 200 children at Mtilansembe School who do not have access to quality education. What are you doing to ensure that these children have access to quality education?
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, that is quite a complete different question. It was about whether these schools have been turned into government schools. And I'm saying that, yes, they were in September last year. Whether they don't have qualified teachers or material, that's another issue that we have to look into. So since I've just gotten from yourself, then we'll go and check. Obviously, we would like to have schools which have got teachers. And this is why every year we are recruiting. And if there are no materials, we will need to put in materials. Because we are only now how many months old into government school, from September, October, November, December, and January. Somewhere like 5 months. Also, if there are no buildings, the other school you built using CDF, isn't it? The other school. You are not aware? Yeah. So similarly, you can start with CDF over the other school. But definitely, because we have gotten that from the community, as government, we need to go and look into that so that we provide both the teachers, buildings, and the requisite school materials. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Milanzi.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We are looking forward to your visit to the school, and we would like to know how soon are you visiting?
So that is an invitation to visit, so we'll leave it at that. But as I always say, let's engage, honorable members, let's engage the ministers than waiting, because that doesn't resolve the issue. Looks like there are no more questions on that. We go to the next. The clerk will now read the orders of the day.
The Geological and Minerals Development Bill, National Assembly Bill number 33 of 2024, second reading.
The Honorable Acting Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honorable Acting Minister of Mines and Minerals Development.
Madam Speaker, the objects of this bill are to: 1, provide for the geological survey, mapping, and exploration of mines in the Republic. B, provide for the establishment of the artisanal and small-scale mining fund. And C, provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Any further debate? The chairperson of the Committee on National Economy, Trade and Labor Matters. I don't see. Is it the vice? Okay. The vice chairperson of the Committee on National Economy and Trade, Trade and Labor Matters, the Honorable Member for Ron.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. Madam Speaker, the Committee on National Economy, Trade and Labour Matters and Minerals Development Bill number 33 of 2024, pursuant to its mandate as set out in Standing Orders number 207J of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2024. Madam Speaker, the Geological and Minerals Development Bill number 33 of 2024 seeks to provide for the geological survey, mapping, and exploration of minerals in the Republic. The bill also seeks to provide for the establishment of the artisanal and small-scale mining fund and provide for the matters concerned with or incidental to the foregoing. Madam Speaker, let me state from the outset that most stakeholders who appeared before the committee were in support of the bill. However, they raised a few concerns on which the committee makes the following observations and recommendations. Madam Speaker, the committee observed that the bill omits a critical provision that existed in the repealed Mines and Minerals Development Act number 11 of 2015, which mandated the Directors of Geological Survey to provide data concerning the geological and minerals resources of Zambia and assist members of the public on information concerning geological matters. The committee therefore recommends that a clause be included which will explicitly require the Director of Geological Survey to provide public access to geological data and information, as this will ensure transparency and public access to crucial information. Madam Speaker, the committee observes that Clause 7(2)(b) and 6 permits authorized officers to break up the surface of a part of land during geological surveys. However, the bill has not explicitly provided for compensation to affected private landowners. The Clause 7(6) highlights potential legal loopholes for geological survey activities to be conducted without explicit permission. The committee is therefore of the view that this omission creates a risk of litigation, strained relationship between the government and landowners, and a negative perception of mining exploration activities. Madam Speaker, in view of this, the committee recommends that the bill incorporates a comprehensive and clearly defined compensation framework that outlines the processes, criterion, and timing for compensation landowners for any damages incurred during geological surveys. This framework should encompass both material damages and potential loss of livelihood opportunities resulting from survey activities. The committee further recommends that prior to initiating and disruptive survey activities, the bill should mandate prior notification and consultation with landowners, as this will foster a transparency, facilitate collaborative planning, and mitigate potential conflicts. Madam Speaker, another matter of concern to the committee is with regard to the functions of the Director of Minerals Investments Promotion and Local Content. Provided under Clause 9, the committee is of the view that this function is already being performed by the Zambia Development Agency, ZDA. Therefore, the committee recommends that the clause be deleted and the functions be exclusively left to the Zambia Development Agency. With regard to the establishment of artisanal and small-scale mining fund under Clause 12(1), the committee observes that this provision perpetuates duplication of functions and efforts with those of the Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission. The committee therefore recommends that the government harmonizes the funds in order to have one fund which will be responding to all the needs across all sectors. Further, efforts should be directed at making the CEC more efficient. Madam Speaker, the committee also observes disharmony between Clause 12.5 of the bill and Part 4, Section 11.1 of the Public Debt Management Act, number 15 of 2022, which empowers the minister responsible for finance to help so authority to raise a loan on behalf of the Republic. The committee therefore recommends that Clause 12.5 of the bill be deleted. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, and on behalf of the committee members, I wish to express our deepest gratitude to you and the Office of the Clerk of the National Assembly for the guidance and support rendered to the committee throughout the deliberations. The committee is further indebted to all the witnesses who appeared before it for their cooperation and providing the necessary briefs. Madam Speaker, I thank you and I beg to move.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? I've seen honorable members have indicated, maybe just an appeal that honorable members, after debating, let's sit and wait for the responses from the ministers than to debate, raise issues and then disappear. Honorable Member for Lunte. If I'm wrong, then forgive me, but I've noticed that you like debating and then Zoom. The Honorable Member for Lunte.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to put it on record that this bill, which is under consideration, is in replacement of the repealed Act, Mines and Minerals Development Act. Madam Speaker, I just want to bring two issues to your attention. If you go to your committee's report and committee observations and recommendations, go to number 6. The committee observes with concern that the bill omits a critical provision that existed in the repealed Mines and Minerals Development Act number 11 of 2015, which mandated the Director of Geological Survey to provide data concerning the geology and mineral resources of Zambia and assist members of the public on information concerning geological matters. Madam Speaker, I want to indicate that all these processes, including the one we are undertaking now, are funded by the people. Geological surveys in the Ministry of Mines and Minerals Development is funded by no other than the people. These people deserve to have information. Therefore, I join your committee in recommending that the executive should bring back the demand on the director to provide information to the people once the surveys have been funded by the people and they have collected information. This will help Zambians, Madam Speaker, to take investment decisions. It is very important that people are given information. Madam Speaker, if the executive chooses not to bring back this clause, I will instruct the National Assembly of Zambia to raise an amendment in my name. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Order, Honorable Member. Instruct. That's
yes.
What you said.
Yes.
The Honorable Members do not instruct. They move motions.
No, it's an instruction. It will be an instruction from me for the National Assembly to raise the amendment in my name.
No, you move a motion, Honorable Member. You move a motion.
What motion? What motion, madam?
Well, if it's instruction, we'll see where it will land.
Yeah.
You may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the next thing is on
Number 3. Madam Speaker, the committee notes that citizens-owned company definition is sitting on the CEC Act, and that in its current form, it does not promote the Zambian citizens to have these mining rights, and therefore the indigenous Zambians are not able to access the benefits of incentives into this sector. Madam Speaker, this, like my previous issue, is something I urge the UPND government to amend the definition so as to provide for indigenous Zambians, so that indigenous Zambians can benefit fully from incentives that are coming from their money, which they fund government to operate. Madam Speaker, like the other one, this one too, I will instruct so that the National Assembly can move an amendment in my name in order for this bill to contain this particular data which will be beneficial to the Zambian people. Madam Speaker, with these few words, I wish to appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. I instruct you to take your seat. The Honorable Member for Kamfinsa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am grateful once again for the opportunity to debate this very, very important bill. I think it's one of our very, very important bills as a country because it governs mining. It is a document, Madam Speaker, that will shape the future of mining depending on what will finally be in the Act. And as a consequence of that, Madam Speaker, I'll quickly take you to the report of your committee. Your committee, Madam Speaker, is proposing that the Department of Mineral Investment and Promotion be removed and that it be mandated to be managed by Zambia Development Agency. That is what the committee is saying. Madam Speaker, I have a contrary view to this very, very important issue. My understanding, Madam Speaker, is that the bill has got a department which has been proposed called the Small Scale and Artisanal Mining Department. So, Madam Speaker, if you have a department responsible for small scale, it means that there must be another department responsible for large scale mining. It is not possible, Madam Speaker, that where we get our money from, the millions of dollars are coming from large scale mining. We don't have a department. What we have is only for artisanal and small scale mining. My proposal, therefore, is that instead of deleting the Minerals Investment and Promotion Department, we simply rename the department. In other words, Madam Speaker, my proposal is that this bill that we are discussing should have a department for small-scale mining, and it should also have a department for large-scale mining. And what will happen, Madam Speaker, with that large-scale mining department is that we're going to have 3 sections. I don't know if they are called sections or units. Under large-scale mining, Madam Speaker, the people of Kamfinsa are suggesting that there must be a unit responsible for local content. You are aware, Madam Speaker, that I've been very passionate about this topic of local content because it is the only tool that will allow Zambians to participate in the business that is currently prevailing in the mining sector. So under the Department of Large-Scale Mining, the people of Kamfinsa are suggesting, and as earlier indicated by my colleague from Lunte, if these thoughts are not captured, the people of Kamfinsa are going to move an amendment to the bill to ensure that 3 units, Madam Speaker, are provided for under the Department of Large-Scale Mining. Which units are these? The first one is on local content. The second unit that has to be established is the Minerals Investment and Promotion Unit, meaning instead of having a department on investment and promotion, it will be a unit under large-scale mining. Third unit that we are going to have under this department, Madam Speaker, is the unit that will be responsible for operations. In short, Madam Speaker, I do not agree that we transfer this responsibility to ZDA. ZDA will continue what they do. They look at Zambia holistically. If they are looking for investors, they go to whichever Indaba is asking for investors to come into Zambia, will allow them to continue doing what they do. But because the conversation today is about mining, Madam Speaker, the people of Kamfinsa are saying, let us have a department responsible for large-scale mining. It is important, Madam Speaker, that we have that department. Second submission, Acting Minister, I hope you are taking note of these very, very important submissions that the people of Kamfinsa are making. Madam Speaker, there's a proposal in the bill that we need to establish a fund. Now, Madam Speaker, I am a proponent of providing resources to people that are doing mining. So if we are going to give mining licenses to young people, those that are in their 40s, those that are in their 50s, Madam Speaker, the argument is that we should also provide some resources to help them begin mining. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, the bill does not specify whether we'll be giving cash to people that we give licenses to, or we'll be providing equipment to our young people. My proposal, Madam Speaker, is that as opposed to giving companies money, these are young people, these are individuals that want to do mining, as opposed to just giving them money to go and do mining activities. We have lessons, Madam Speaker, that when you give people money, on the understanding that they are going to undertake activities of economic value, Madam Speaker, the lesson is that people end up using the money for something else. So as opposed to just giving out cash, which we've tried, CEC has tried giving out cash, Madam Speaker, that hasn't worked. CDF, we have so many reports, Madam Speaker, people getting money are not using it for the intended purpose. So the people of Kamfinsa are saying, we'll give you a mining license, but we won't give you the cash that you want. Tell us the equipment that is needed for you to do the mining. Then government will now be able to procure the equipment, Madam Speaker, and give them the equipment that they need. So that when we give them the equipment, Madam Speaker, we must have people that are supervising those mining activities. Because, Madam Speaker, for as long as we continue giving out money, Madam Speaker, we will have problems. The moment you receive your money, Madam Speaker, suddenly the needs for which you received that money, suddenly the needs change. Instead of you going to explore the opportunities that are available in mining, Madam Speaker, people end up using that cash. And that is why, for me, I support the proposal that we should have a fund to support small-scale mining. But the people of Kamfinsa are saying, can we now prescribe how that money will go to these young men and women that want to do mining? Do we give them the cash? Do we send the money into their accounts, Madam Speaker? Or we provide technical assistance? We give them the equipment that they need. We ensure that they are doing the correct thing in terms of mining, Madam Speaker. Then we'll begin getting the right results out of mining. For me, Madam Speaker, this bill is too important to be mismanaged. We need to ensure that as we prescribe the clauses that have been proposed, Madam Speaker, we pay attention to the details. What do we need to do to ensure that we get mining activity to provide the right benefits for our people? For me, Madam Speaker, it is important that we do the right thing. What is the right thing we need to do, Madam Speaker? Ensure that indigenous Zambians are getting licenses. Ensure that the Ministry of Mines, Honorable Acting Minister, we have too many licenses that were given out last year. We have too many licenses that have been given in the past. But what have we gotten out of those licenses? In most cases, people end up selling those licenses. So we need to do the right thing. Provide resources, provide technical support, Madam Speaker, the same way we have extensional services, the same way we have officers under Ministry of Agriculture. Why can't we have officers responsible for mining going out there where the licenses are being given, Madam Speaker, ensuring that our young people are doing the correct thing? That way, Madam Speaker, we are going to get the right results. The people of Kamfinsa, once again, Madam Speaker, due to the limitation of time, will restrict today's discussion to those two particular issues. The rest, Madam Speaker, will come in form of amendments to the bill. I thank you once again.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Shuangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to make a few comments on the proposed bill under consideration. Madam Speaker, this proposal for this new bill is actually intended to get certain portfolio functions that were ideally provided for under the Mines and Minerals Development Act number 11 of 2015. And so it will be a standalone bill to do with geological survey functions. The first thing I want to register, Madam Speaker, to the Acting Minister of Mines is that we all know that most of these minerals that are being discovered now and that have been discovered before are in areas where we have got traditional leadership. The chiefs, who are the custodians of the land on behalf of the people. I don't see any provision in this act that's exclusively providing for the role our traditional leadership is going to play. Madam Speaker, interestingly, even some of the provisions that could have been co-opted from the Mines and Minerals Development Act have been omitted in this act. And I want to commend the committee for pointing out these omissions. Madam Speaker, the first one is access to geological data and information. In the Minerals and Minerals Act, Madam Speaker, the Director of Geological Survey was mandated to provide data concerning the geology and mineral resources of Zambia and assist members of the public on the information concerning geological matters. And in this regard, according to a report, Madam Speaker, on page 9, the committee recommends that the clause be included explicitly geological survey to provide access to data and information, rather. The committee will view that this will ensure that there is transparency and public access to the crucial information as required by law. This cannot be overemphasized, Acting Minister. And if this bill is proceeding, you must take into account this recommendation coming from the committee. Because this data collection is financed by the people of Zambia, and they have got a right to know what is happening. Madam Speaker, the critical one, and very interesting one, is where you are giving authority to surveyors to, and I refer to the committee, Madam Speaker, so that you hear what I'm saying. The clause 7.2b of the proposed bill permits authorized officers to break up the surface of any part of land during geological surveys. And this is without regard to the land ownership. Now, Madam Speaker, land ownership and land ownership security is what every citizen prides in. How do you go to a land which is titled, probably utilized for farming, rip it open, and when you discover minerals, you can do whatever you can without even providing compensation to the landowner? And this also goes to what I was saying, Madam Speaker. You just go into a chiefdom without regard to the chief who holds this land on behalf of the people and start surveying and start ripping it out and do whatever you want without regard to the owners of the land. And indeed, like the committee observes, Madam Speaker, from page 9 to page 10, they are saying the bill lacks explicit provisions for compensation of the affected private landowners. The committee also contends that clause 7 sub 6 highlights potential legal loopholes for geological survey activities to be conducted without explicit permission. The committee is of a strong view that this omission creates a risk of litigation, strained relations between the government and landowners, and the negative perception of mining exploration activities. This is what your committee is saying. And Honorable Minister of Acting Minister of Mines, these potential conflicts can actually create a challenge in minerals development. You pay attention to these recommendations because our chiefs have got a role to play in what happens to the land they hold on behalf of their people. And all of us who are rural constituents representatives must make it clear that we are not going to be part of passing a law which excludes the rights of our traditional leaders who have got the rights over land on behalf of the citizens. So you revisit that clause and make sure that it is clear in terms of compensation. And it goes to other landowners who have got titles to their pieces of land. You can't just go and open someone's land and do whatever you want and without taking care of their existing interests. So, Madam Speaker, the issue of artisanal equally must be well, all the definitions must be clear. These mining activities are happening in areas where we have got people sitting in villages. The next thing, and I'm happy that the Honorable Minister acting today knows what is happening in constituents like Shuangandu. He knows it very well. And how our people are not benefiting in the activities of these illegal mining activities that are going on there. So it's important that we don't miss any step here. The substantive Minister of Mines was talking about, lamenting about how we can curtail and curb illegal mining activities. If we don't get it right in this proposed bill, these matters will protract. And in the end, Madam Speaker, it's like what I always say. In our local languages, there's what we call umulembo wa chipuba upwira muli tumfwe. Meaning, okra prepared by a foolish person will finish by everybody testing before the meal is prepared. So the people that are in areas where these minerals are should be allowed to benefit and should be provided for in this bill. Suzerainty, Madam Speaker, is another very interesting story. And if we don't tighten up, we shall continue witnessing the looting of minerals just as it has been happening in the past. Madam Speaker,
Thank you, Honorable Member. Your time is up. I don't know if you still have anything more to add than the hot pot of okra. I don't know, didn't they get burnt, those people who were
Madam Speaker,
testing from the fire? No, I was just asking a rhetoric question. The Honorable Member for Usakili.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute on the Geological and Mineral Development Bill. Madam Speaker, what has given birth to this bill is the repeal of the Mines and Mineral Development Act number 11 of 20